Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. All right guys, I'm back. It's Friday, March 20th, and it is 9:56 p.m. Now, I've had to stop this video several times because of coughing fits, and I don't think I have the coronavirus because I've been very careful, but it is very active in my community, but I think it's probably more likely that it's allergies. So if I do start coughing again, I'm just going to pause it because I am determined to get through this, and I have 2 videos for tonight, so I don't want to play out on the first one. Anyway, let's get to the news and information. I hope you're all doing well, or at least as well as you can be under the circumstances. I know these are really difficult times, and I think that things are going to get far worse before they get better. That's my feeling anyway. Now, I do have some people to thank, but I'm going to leave that for the end. And I'm going to skip this one because even though it's only a day old, it's already old news. And that is the strangest thing, because really right now, if you're 1 day behind or 2 days behind, you're way behind. It's like a whole year's worth of news is happening in 1 day. I've never seen the likes of it. It makes it hard to catch up. And so anyway, and I do apologize for last night. I have a friend that was exposed to the virus, and so I felt that it was really necessary to talk to them instead of doing my show. But I'm hopefully going to make it through 2 tonight, and I'm planning on doing 2 tomorrow. So anyway. And I am working on iPet Goat 2, but I'm realizing now it's a heck of a lot more work than I thought it was going to be to do a really in-depth. So I'm going to release it in parts because I can't do it all in one video anyway. It's just the detail that I'm putting into it can't be done in one video. So, all right, hopefully tomorrow will be the first installment along with a regular video, because if I don't do that, I'll get behind on the news. All right, so Texas governor has locked down Texas, and I think probably everyone knows that by now. Like I said, it's old news. Like, it's only 1 day old, but it's old. All right, and let's go here. I won't cough all the way through this or clear my throat, because if I continue to do that, I'm just going to pause it and take another lozenge and so forth. I don't want to subject anybody to that. All right, FEMA activated throughout U.S. Trump addresses nation from FEMA headquarters. Now, I don't know about you, but this gave me goosebumps, and not in a good sense. Because under normal circumstances, something like this would make all our skin crawl. But it seems to be okay because it's for a virus. Now, I understand the measures that are being taken completely and totally. But I also know that there's something else going on, and this virus has been planned and released on purpose, probably by the deep state. We don't know exactly who released it, but it's definitely been weaponized. All right, so let's read this. FEMA has been activated in every region at the highest level throughout the country. The announcement was made today by President Trump and Vice President Pence, along with their coronavirus task force, during a live press conference at the FEMA headquarters, which included video streams with governors from around the country. Vice President Pence announced that all COVID-19 efforts would now be run through FEMA, and that governors should all be coordinating with their region's FEMA coordinators. During the conference, FEMA released a fact sheet on its website saying FEMA's regional administrators have been delegated authority to approve requests for non-congregate sheltering for the duration of the Secretary of Health and Human Services declaration of a public health emergency for COVID-19. So I have been watching all of the press conferences that come out. I have been watching them in full. So I'm fully aware of this and watched it in its entirety. The news conference comes after California governor warned we have the ability to do martial law. If we feel the necessity to do that, we can do that. Tens of thousands of National Guard troops could be deployed in the U.S. The head of the U.S. National Guard said on Thursday that he thinks tens of thousands of National Guard troops will eventually be involved in COVID-19 efforts to help deal with problems inside the United States. It's hard to tell what the exact requirements will be, but I'm expecting tens of thousands to be used inside the states as this grows. General Joseph Lengyel, Chief of the National Guard Bureau, said during a Pentagon press briefing. As of yesterday, more than 1,500 Guard personnel in 22 states were called to duty to fight the spread of COVID-19. So think about this. Think about how many freedoms we're going to lose because of this. They've already shut down, told everyone, the stores are shut down, the coffee shops are shut down, the hair salons, the nail salons, the people that do, cosmetic stuff, coffee shops, all the clothing stores, all the stores. The only thing that's open, or should be, is grocery stores and pharmacies. But I don't really want to visit a pharmacy because, sick people are in a pharmacy. So it's very active in my community, and I'm taking this very seriously because I have elderly parents. I don't want to give it to them. I don't want it. So anyway, I'm just saying we're losing a lot of freedoms here. And in the past, when we've lost freedoms, we haven't gotten them back. Think about 9/11, all the freedoms we lost. We've never gotten them back. So yes, this concerns me. I understand why it's necessary, absolutely, but it still concerns me. And I know, now I am absolutely, positively convinced that there is something else going on globally. So U.S. virus plan predicts 18-month pandemic with widespread shortages. 18 months. That's a long time. A federal government plan to fight COVID-19 warned policymakers last week that a pandemic will last 18 months or longer and could include multiple waves, resulting in widespread shortages that could strain consumers and the nation's healthcare system. The 100-page plan, dated Friday, the same day President Trump declared a national emergency, laid out a plan that could see agencies like FEMA give unprecedented powers and give the president powers to mobilize the private sector. Shortages of products may occur, impacting healthcare, emergency services, and other elements of critical infrastructure, the plan warned. This includes potentially critical shortages of diagnostics, medical supplies, including PPE and pharmaceuticals, and staffing in some locations. PPE refers to personal protective equipment. The hospitals are already short, and I know that for a fact because I've heard from healthcare directly. They are short, and they're also going around telling the nurses and other healthcare providers in the hospital, "Oh, don't wear the mask. It scares people." Are you kidding me? Well, I'll tell you, there are nurses walking off the job, and can you blame them? I wouldn't want to care for patients without a mask, without, protective eyewear, without a gown. I'd say no, until you find me one, I'm not doing that. Because, you think about the nurses, and I know not all of them are female, but female and male nurses, they have families. They have people that love them and depend on them. So the shortage is already there. The hospitals are short of this stuff. They really are. And I don't know, because how can they do their job? How can they look after people with this virus if they're not protected? And I think if you could see how they're dying, it would scare the shite right out of you. Yes, it would be running down your leg, frightened to death. Excuse me. The 100-page plan dated Friday, the same day President Trump, okay, I already read that. The plan continued. State and local governments, as well as critical infrastructure and communications channels, will be stressed and potentially less reliable. These stresses may also increase the challenges of getting updated messages and coordinating guidance to these jurisdictions directly. The plan, which was classified but marked for official use only, not for public distribution or release, was shared with the New York Times. Seems like the New York Times is always getting, somebody's always leaking to them. If you can, I would avoid stores for a while, especially the gun, since we have heard reports that some of them are attracting the wrong crowds. If you need supplies, try to order them online if you can find them. Many retailers have started limiting even online orders, and Amazon is out of large amounts of grocery products. But if you can, I would see what you can find online and use services like Amazon Pantry, Amazon Fresh, Bulk Emergency Foods, or Amazon Grocery. But here's the thing. My parents, in all the stocking up that I did for them, forgot to tell me about cereal. And so, but with everything in this, like, we have a very small population here, and there was 100 cases, like, a week and a half ago? So I don't know how many cases we have in the community now, but that's a lot for here. So, and I'm not real thrilled about going into a grocery store. I'm just being honest with you. So I went on to Amazon and I was looking for cereal. I don't know what the Amazon.com, like this is Amazon.ca for Canada, they were wanting like $50 for a box of cereal. Are you kidding me? No, thank you. Like, I will go hungry before I will pay robbers like that. That is disgusting. It's disgusting that people are taking advantage of this. People are out of work. They don't have the money to spend $50 on a box of cornflakes. Like, I don't know. It's not good because, yeah, they tell you, oh, no, don't go to the grocery stores. Well, the grocery stores are empty anyway. A lot of them, they're so picked over. And you go online and they're just wanting your firstborn for a box of Cheerios or cornflakes. Are you kidding me? No, thanks. All right. So let's go back now. I know I'm ranting a little bit. Okay, I'm ranting a lot. Now, I wanted to play this in case you haven't seen this, and if you have, I'm sure you won't mind seeing it again. This is our lovely First Lady. So let's hang on here.
Today, I want to speak with you about coronavirus and what it means for you and your family.
Hang on here. That is, I got to check I guess I had turned my volume down. I don't know why. That's odd. All right, I hope you heard. I hope that didn't affect the first part of the video. But anyway, let's listen to our First Lady again here. Here we go.
Today, I want to speak with you about coronavirus and what it means for you and your family. While changes need to be made now, this is not how we will live forever. Our children will return to school, people will return to work, we will gather at the places of worship, concerts, and sporting events again. I urge you to stay connected to family and loved ones through the video chats, phone calls, social media, and other safe technologies. Please be sure to follow CDC guidelines, which can be found at coronavirus.gov or cdc.gov, along with other information and resources. Stay safe, and remember, while many of us are apart, we are all in this together.
I think she did a great job there. And I like to see, her being used in that way. Whoops, sorry about that. I like to see her being used in that way because, it's unbelievable that she should be gracing every magazine in America. I mean, she is a style icon. And clearly one of the most beautiful women in the world. But anyway, we know that probably won't happen anytime soon. but you never know. It might happen. All right, let's go back now and let's look at this. Now, I thought this was kind of pretty wild, and no, it's not serious news. It's someone using a drone to walk a dog. That's pretty smart if you ask me. He's just using his drone to walk the dog. Now, I don't think I'd be okay with doing that in case a car came along or something, but obviously the street's pretty quiet. And there's the guy. I just thought that was very inventive. I thought, man, that's pretty, but you know that the dog could like pull that drone around, I mean, easily. But so the dog is obviously used to this. Anyway, what that has to do with anything, I don't know, but I just thought it was cute and wanted to show you. And it's my show, so I can. So there. All right, and here we go. Let's look at this. Gasoline hits 99 cents at Kentucky station. Sells out. Well, yeah, it would. That's pretty good because when I arrived in the States in 96 and, or maybe it was 95. It was either, yeah, I think it was around there anyway. And when I first moved to the States, I lived in South Carolina, well, it was Charlotte, but it was on Charlotte kind of has spread out. And the gas was 89 cents. I had this little tiny red car and I could fill it for $5 to $7. I had never seen anything like that in my life because gas up here is so expensive, but the gas here has gone down. I mean, it's probably about $3 a gallon. I mean, if you convert it, which is cheap for here. Very, very. So anyway, I'm not going to get into more of that, but there's low gas prices everywhere. And it's shocking everyone here because we're just not used to that. I said, oh, sure, they put the gas down now. We can't go anywhere. Sure, cheap gas and we can't travel anywhere. Like that sucks like a Hoover. All right, let's look at this. I got some interesting things coming up. Really, I do. Trump counter-trolling coded message from comped celebs using a Corona typewriter to issue today's White House statement. Now, remember when I talked about in the last video, Madonna and Tom Hanks using the Corona typewriter and sending out messages. Well, Trump, because he is the master troller, that you can't out-troll him. You can't. You can try, but you can't. So what does he do? He issues the statement from the press secretary typewritten. Like, how crazy is that? When's the last time you've seen anything typewritten? I mean, I don't even remember. Seriously. Where on earth did they come up with an old typewriter? That's what I'd like to know. Anyway, I just thought that was so awesome. Like, he's genius. He really is. These people that call him, oh, he's just such an idiot. He's, they think that he is so stupid and so like a bumbling idiot, a clown. He's just, they make fun of his hair. They make fun of everything. But he's genius. There's nobody that can troll like him. I tell you, nobody. All right, now let's go back and let's look at this. I think this is interesting and you can't make me not think it's interesting. All right, let's look at this. This is a Q drop from 9th of March, 2019. And it says, sealed, unsealed, indictments coming. Now, yes, probably that deals with indictments, but it's interesting because let's look at here. Every time you see the president talk, he has the seal, the presidential seal. Well, Now the seal's gone. It just says the White House, Washington. What happened to the seal? Why is the seal gone? Bring back the seal. I don't know. There's got to be a good reason. There has to be a good reason. I just don't happen to know what it would be. But found that very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. And this says U.S. coronavirus case updates for Thursday, but that is old news already. So let's move down to here. Now, I'm trying to remember what this is. Oh, yes. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm just deciding which one to start with here. Okay, this says, I'm Bill Gates, co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, AMA, about COVID-19, and says, the question of which businesses should keep going is tricky. Certain food supplies and health system. We need water, electricity, and the internet. Supply chains for critical things need to be maintained. Countries are still figuring out what to keep running. Eventually, we will have some digital certificates. Now, this is the part we need to be concerned about. Eventually, we will have some digital certificates to show who has recovered or been treated recently, or when we have a vaccine, who has received it. Digital certificates, the person asks, are you saying each person individually will receive a document that says we were tested? Can that be used against us? And someone says, no, he's saying Microsoft and MIT developed tattoo markers that show whether you have received a vaccine or not. This will be coupled with Gates' new invention, ID 2020, which is a digital ID microchip implanted under our skin. Sound familiar? Sounds very, very familiar to me. Under the skin. Probably on the back of the hand or the forehead, because why would somebody put it on the forehead? Well, what if you've had a hand cut off? What if you don't have arms? There are people that don't. So yeah, let me just read that again. So he's saying Microsoft and MIT developed tattoo markers that show whether you have received a vaccine or not. This will be coupled with Gates' new invention, ID 2020, which is a digital ID microchip implanted under the skin. What else will be on that? So could this possibly be? Now, think about this for a minute. Some of you are going to say I'm being ridiculous, and some of you are not. Some of you are going to see what I'm getting at here. Now, what happens if you haven't had the vaccine for the virus? Are they going to let you work? I mean, you already can't send your kids to school if they're not vaccinated. So what's going to happen? Are they going to deny you employment? Are they going to deny you school? Are they going to deny you medical care? I don't know. They could. And then if that was so, if no man could buy or sell unless he had the vaccine with the chip showing that he had it, I don't know. Something to think about. Now, it says, what changes are we going to have to make to how businesses operate? Okay, this is just a larger version of this. Yeah, eventually we'll have some digital certificate. So I should have started reading over there, but oh well. You know, I'm not perfect. All right. I'm not even close. All right, now let's go and look at this. MIT develops tattoo ID to track who has been vaccinated. Do you want to be tracked? Do you want everyone to know what vaccinations you have and haven't had? I don't. MIT researchers have struck on a novel and for many surely unsettling method of keeping track of who has and hasn't had a particular vaccination, creating an ink that can be safely embedded in the skin along with the V. I'm going to stop saying that word or this will take forever to upload because I'll have to go through every word. The V itself, and only visible using a special infrared application. The invisible tattoo is a pattern made up of tiny semiconducting crystals that reflect light and thus glow under infrared light. The pattern will be delivered alongside the V into the skin via high-tech dissolvable microneedles made of a mixture of polymers and sugar. In areas where paper vaccination cards are often lost or do not exist at all, and electronic databases are unheard of, this technology could enable the rapid and anonymous detection of patient V history to ensure that every child is vaccinated. MIT researcher Kevin McHugh said in a statement. Now, I don't know about you, but frankly, that's terrifying. So they're developing this because, well, you know, they don't have sophisticated computers in some places and that keep track of all this and have databases and so forth. But that way they can go and they can make sure with their little scanner that every child has been sufficiently, you know, inoculated. All right, strikingly, the research was funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Well, who else? Who else? The fact the project came about following a direct request from the Microsoft founder himself, who has been personally and somewhat controversially involved in efforts to eradicate polio and measles via V's worldwide. Bill Gates wants to tattoo V records onto people by injecting a QR code under the skin with invisible nanoparticles. Everyone okay with that? Because that's not dystopian at all. No, not at all. No, that doesn't remind me of 1984. Not at all. If you haven't read that book, you need to. We're in it right now. The system has been practically trialed by MIT researchers on rats with the embryonic pattern still detectable 9 months after injection. On human cadavers, the patterns outlasted 5 years of simulated sun exposure. It's possible someday this invisible approach could create new possibilities for data storage, biosensing, and V applications that could improve how medical care is provided, particularly in the developing world, MIT professor and senior author Robert Langer said. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation came under intense criticism for a V project in India in 2009. During the year, several schools for tribal children in Telangana became sites for observation studies for a cervical cancer V, which was administered to thousands of girls aged 9 to 15. The test subjects were administered human papillomavirus V Gardasil in 3 rounds under the supervision of state health department officials. In all, 16,000 girls in the district, many of whom stayed in state government-run hostels meant for tribal students. Months later, many started falling ill, and by 2010, 5 died. A standing committee on health and family welfare that investigated the studies in India tabled its report in 2013, finding consent for conducting the studies wasn't properly secured, in flagrant violation of medical norms. In many cases, children gave fingerprint consent for the test despite having no idea about the nature of the disease or the V. In others, consent forms were simply not secured at all. Yes, and that Gardasil has done a lot of damage and has left some young girls completely sterile. So it's taken away their dreams of ever having a child, which is tragic. All right. Now, let's go back here. Now, this is interesting. It was put on the 8chan board, or 8kun now, and it was by an anon, but This is something. Think about this. Wow. How do you force the release of the cures? How do you break the grip of big pharma? How do you explain the economy crashing without admitting you are breaking up the corporate monopolies? How do you drive all of the bad manipulative money out of the stock market? How do you get all peoples, regardless of race, class, political affiliation, to work together? How do you justify taking control of the economy and banking systems away from the Fed? How do you prevent mass casualty events? How do you restrict travel to make sure they can't escape? How do you seize evidence and property without media and public interference? How do you accomplish all of that without mass panic? Best plan ever. Now, again, I don't think they're saying that the virus isn't real. They're saying that this is what they're accomplishing under the guise of this. I don't know. None of us know, but it's a good thought. And I am hoping with everything within me that it's true. All right. President Donald Trump announces huge news. I love the way he says China. I don't know why that just came into my mind, and I just felt compelled to tell you. Anyway, President Donald Trump announces huge news. Hydrochloroquine, a drug used to treat malaria, has shown encouraging early results against coronavirus. By eliminating red tape, President Trump will be able to make this drug available almost immediately. But hold up, people, because I looked up the side effects for it, and the side effects are pretty nasty. So it's not something that they would want to give prophylactically, meaning give it to prevent someone getting it. It's something that they would give, if you've got the virus and you're in bad shape and might possibly die, that would be a really good drug to try. All right. Breaking news. Batshite crazy Nancy Pelosi calls on Trump to use emergency war powers immediately, but she just passed a legislation to limit his war powers. This woman is out of her mind. Yes, I think she's been out of her mind for a while. Now, on to something completely unrelated. Obama's big lie. Barack Obama's real father, Communist Party propagandist Frank Marshall Davis. Now, I've seen this before, but for those of you that may not, this is his real father, and you can tell there's some similarity there, more similarity there than the here. Anyway, let's go on here. Obama's father was Communist Party USA propagandist Frank Marshall Davis, a suspected Soviet agent. Davis indoctrinated Obama into Marxism from age 10 to 18. Barack Obama's life story, the basis of his political career, is a fairy tale. The Kenyan goat herder father was only a sham marriage to hide an illicit affair. Obama used him to obscure a Marxist political foundation. America has been had. Beginning in 1983, weatherman Bill Ayers and his father, Tom Ayers, funded Barack Obama's education and nurtured his political career. Obama is a red diaper baby following the Saul Alinsky strategy to collapse capitalism and destroy the American middle class. Tax health care plus legalize illegals plus stimulus for cronies plus attack business plus food stamp dependent society plus welfare waivers equals a bankrupt America. And that, of course, we know was their plan. They had an 16-year plan to bankrupt America, to ruin America. Well, they were very well on their way. So, and I also, this picture, probably before Mishel before she transitioned, because looking very male there, and there's a very male package right here. So I'm just saying, there's more than enough evidence to suggest this is a man, was a man at one point. Okay. Obama's real name is Barry Soetoro. Ilhan Omar's real name is Ilhan Azmi. Christine Gillibrand's real name is Tina Rutnick. Bill de Blasio's real name is Warren Wilhelm. I don't know the rest because it's cut off. Beto O'Rourke is Robert O'Rourke. Bernie Sanders is Bernard Gutmann. Kamala Harris is Maya Harrison. Pete Buttigieg is Paul Montgomery. Elizabeth Warren is Liz Herring. Cory Booker was known as Tony Booger. Looks more like a booger than a booker. I'm just saying. Eric Holder is Eric Himpson. Yeah, gee, why do they all need different names? Are they CIA? Is there a reason why they can't use their own names in politics? Why would they do that? Would it be to disguise anything? Well, people don't generally just radically change their name when they enter politics, unless there would be a reason to. Just saying. All right, a 34-year-old, we're moving on now. 34-year-old California man who visited Walt Disney World and Universal Studios in Florida 2 weeks ago has died following a positive coronavirus diagnosis, which is a good reason why they shut down the parks, because one person mingling among all, if you were positive and not showing symptoms yet, and you went to Disney World and you're rubbing shoulders and you're getting on rides and you're touching things and touching the bars on the rides and all that, how many people could you possibly infect? A lot. And then those people are infected and they don't know it. And it would be catastrophic. It could be. I guess we'll know if there's a huge amount of people in Florida, which I think there already is. All right. Yes. Coronavirus stimulus checks, what you need to know. I thought this was good because I think everybody is wondering about this. Hundreds wrote to NBC News with questions after a report about a Treasury Department proposal to send money directly to Americans. And I believe that Trump has signed that now, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that he has, that it's a done deal. All right. Washington, even in the best of times, paying the bills was a monthly struggle for Susie, a 70-year-old great-grandmother in Oklahoma. These are not the best of times. Unable to afford retirement, Susie picks up shifts as a substitute teacher, a critical source of income that vanished when the schools shuttered. So when the Trump administration floated the idea of rushing cash payments to Americans, Susie had urgent questions. There's no relief in sight, said Susie, whose age also puts her at a higher risk of dying from the virus. I'm single and have no help with my bills, so I'm anxious to find out if we really are going to receive this help. How much, when, and how? Susie, who asked that only her first name be used, was one of the hundreds of Americans who wrote to NBC News with questions in the hours after a report about a Treasury Department proposal to send 2 stimulus checks to Americans. The questions were dire, the stories devastating, with subject lines like "Help, please read. What about senior citizens?" For now, there are far more questions than answers. The 2-page proposal from the Treasury Department on Wednesday was just that, a proposal, little more than a list of priorities. It hasn't been passed by Congress, a necessary step before the government starts sending checks to Americans. The Trump administration is in talks with Senate Republicans on a rescue package that will likely include some version of most of what the Treasury proposed, but the specifics are likely to be hammered out until next week. So maybe it's been passed, but all the details aren't worked out. I'm not sure. Here's what we know and don't know about the most frequent questions about help coming from the government. The Treasury Department proposal calls for payments to be issued April 6th and May 18th. But again, that's just a proposal and not money that's been approved. Congress could very well change those dates if and when it passes legislation, including cash payments. The government proposed that each tranche total $250 billion nationwide, with each person's exact amount determined by their income and family size. The Treasury Department said it is modeling specific options, but proposed that both payments to each person be for the same amount. Senators who will ultimately vote on any bill who will ultimately vote on any bill have proposed cash payments from $1,000 to $2,000 a person. Now, I believe that they've settled on $1,200 per person, but if you're married, of course, that'll be $2,400. You don't just get one check. If you're married, you get two. It's per person. So that's a good amount if you're struggling. Not enough, but it's you know, it's a lot. When you don't have it, it's a lot. I'm on Social Security or disabled and don't make enough to pay taxes. Does that mean I won't get a check? We don't know, and it's a fair question. Vicky, who wrote in from Idaho, said she'd lost much of her retirement because of the stock market's coronavirus crash. Mel, who is on disability, said he can't even go to the store to get anything. And Deborah, who said she had chronic disability, wrote in asking how she could stock up on supplies, adding, at this point in time, I don't even have the ability to be hired anywhere. And the Treasury Department's written proposal, obtained by NBC News, called for payments to individual taxpayers to be administered by the IRS and Bureau of the Fiscal Service. That language suggests that Americans would have to be taxpayers to qualify. But various senators' proposals have referred more generally to Americans, and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said this week that we're looking at sending checks to Americans immediately. Because those on Social Security and disability are among the most economically vulnerable populations, it seems likely that Congress would act to ensure that they would be included in any emergency aid. And that's how I feel as well. I believe that, you know, Trump is trying to help Americans, and no one's more needy than those who are disabled and seniors on a very limited income. So that would be my understanding, that they would also get the check. The Treasury Department said that Senate Finance Committee didn't immediately respond to inquiries about whether Americans who don't pay taxes would be eligible. Those are all important. And for now, unanswered questions the federal government would have addresses for people who paid taxes, earned income, or received government payments last year. But those could be out of date, especially for renters or people without stable residences who are likely in most need of financial help during the crisis. It is also unclear whether any financial package would involve traditional checks mailed to Americans or whether direct deposits into bank accounts would be an option. Now, it's my understanding that the direct deposits will be an option. So probably if you got your tax refund, you know, deposited, they would deposit it in your account. And I would assume that if you're getting government social services, or what's it called? So, you know, social, like disability. What do they call that? I'm having a brain fade. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Those that are disabled, those that they're getting government checks, they're over 65. So yeah, I would assume that would be directly deposited in their account if they get their checks direct deposited. And I think probably most people do. Will low-income people be prioritized? What if I'm on food stamps? How can I stock up on supplies? It depends on whether any final legislation gives an identical amount to every person or doles it out based on factors like income and family size, as the Treasury Department proposed. Mnuchin has said previously that people making $1 million a year clearly don't need checks. Well, I would agree with that. One reader, Shirley, said that with a fixed income, she's been giving people rides in exchange for helping keep her electricity on. And Robin wrote in saying she's receiving food stamps and Medicaid as she fights breast cancer and asked, will this be given to the poorest people? Yes, I would assume yes. I can't see them sending it out to people and not sending it to the most vulnerable Americans. I just can't see that. It would be ludicrous, really. Aside from whatever happens with cash payments, there are other ways the government is working to help those on public assistance programs and those in financial need. Already, Congress has passed coronavirus legislation, beefing up funding for public health programs, food stamps, and school lunches. That legislation also bolsters unemployment insurance and ensures paid family and sick leave for employees of small businesses. So, and it says, what if I currently owe the government money and taxes? Will that count against me? They're saying unlikely. So that is another real question that people would have. And I don't know, but I also heard that it might not be, okay, if you are a couple and you have kids, then you'll each get a check. And I think, from what I understand, there's so much per child. I don't know, but that's my understanding. And it says the government has made it clear that it's working to give people leniency in paying owed taxes as another way to get cash into Americans' hands during the crisis. This week, the Treasury Department announced that anyone owing taxes for 2019 will have an extra 3 months until July 15th to pay without penalty or interest in what amounts to an interest-free loan from the federal government. And now, that doesn't mean that if the government owes you that you can't file early, like now, you can. But if you owe them, they'll wait until July 15th. And usually, if you call them, and I know because I had a situation where I owed taxes one year when I was in the States, and I called them and I made a payment arrangement, and they were fine with that. As long as I was paying something toward it, they were absolutely fine. So anyway, that's just a little practical advice for you guys. And let's go back now, because there's always more. All right, well, let's come down here. And this by Robbie Starbuck. President Donald Trump wants to get money directly to Americans, and it has forced the Democrat Party to drop their mask and show that they only really care about themselves, or really care about power and themselves. That's what's happening right now. Democratic leader Schumer criticizes Trump's call for $1,000 checks. Well, sure, he doesn't need it. He doesn't need the check. I wonder how he'd feel if he was sitting in a house where the electricity was about to be turned off because you can't afford to pay the bill because you lost your job because of a virus that you don't have any control over. You don't have any food in your pantry. You've been living on peanut butter and crackers for the last couple of weeks. Yeah, wonder what he'd feel like then. Makes me sick. It really does. Makes me very sick. Now, I've got all these little interesting tidbits here. He said, despite the constant negative press, Kofifi. Now, that was in 2017, May 31st. He said that. And somebody, I don't know if maybe, says he was talking about 5G all along. In layman's terms, Kofifi magnets essentially cleanse the impurities from the 5G and work on an ionic level to keep oxygen from being depleted, rendering the signals harmless. This is the first time I've seen this, but if that's true, that's brilliant. Brilliant. I don't know. I tried to look it up. And I could not find anything where Kofifi magnets, about Kofifi magnets. So I don't know. But if any of you know, please put it in the suggestions below, because I think it would set a lot of people's minds at ease, including mine. So, yeah. Now, let's look at this. No, really, let's. Yes, this is interesting. Everybody that says China's getting back to normal, back to work, and there's no more virus there. I don't believe that. I don't believe it not even for a second, because I don't think really it's possible. But look at this. This person is from China. She says, now I'm starting to believe it's heaven's mandate, whatever that's supposed to mean. I mean, I know what it means, but in this situation, I don't know. District in Qingdao, Shandong province in China is on fire too on March 19th. There's all these fires across China that are happening. Now, what's that all about? Now, I'll turn this off because we don't understand what they're saying anyway. But this shows one of the fires, and this is in Qingdao, Shandong province. That's one fire. Let's go back. There's more. Nope, that's video number 2 over there. All right, let's look at this. And this is China, Shandong, Laoshan mountain fire. So many coincidental fires today. Hopefully some evidence is left behind in the ashes for investigators. Gee, that's Harry Shen, PhD, at PhD parody, so probably not a PhD. It says renegade China journalism from the Underground Silk Railroad communique. This is a parody Twitter account. I don't know, but the fire's very real, whether it's coming from a parody account or not. That fire's real. And let's go back. I also came across a huge treasure trove of videos directly from China. So I'm going to be looking through those and hopefully bring you the ones that best illustrate what is happening there. And let's go here. Yeah, okay. This is interesting. It says, nitrogen dioxide emissions in China are increasing again, new data shows, after 2-month reduction in China's air pollution, due in part to the January and February coronavirus restrictions. New data from Copernicus EU demonstrates the rise of nitrogen dioxide emissions in March as life begins to resume for the country. So it is, but is this being caused by fires? I don't know, because from what I'm hearing, the country's not back to normal. But again, I'm not there, so it's hard. And you know, Xi Jinping is not allowing us to get in there to, like journalists, to get in there to be able to report on what's happening. So who knows, really? All right, now let's come back down here. I think we're reaching the end here for this one. And we've got this. We've got travel advisory level 4. Do not travel. Don't. Just say no. I don't know. I want to travel. I was hoping to take a little vacation somewhere. Now I can't go anywhere except to my own country. Who wants to come here? I've been all across this country. I'm sick of this country. I want to come back to the States. I have been to almost all of the States. I haven't been to Hawaii. There's places I want to see in the States, man. It's a fascinating place. I love it, and I can't wait to be living there again. All right, now let's take a look at this. Can't remember what this is, but should be good, maybe. Oh yes, Greece, border guards and the military stop thousands of migrants from trying to enter the country every day. Canada, the RCMP carries migrant suitcases across the border. Yeah, that's the difference. That's the difference right there. Yeah, when they say the border's closed in Canada, they're lying. Because they're letting illegals just walk across, and yeah, the RCMP just carries their suitcases for them. That's it. We're so nice here. It's just so nice. Yep. So anyway, there you go. And that's on the Greek video recorded today at the Greek-Turkish border. Hundreds of migrants carrying homemade ladders look like siege machines from the Lord of the Rings Game of Thrones on the way to the border fence for another storming attempt. Can you imagine? Like, I've never seen anything like this. It's unbelievable, the migrant issue in Europe, Middle East, all those places. All right. Well, that's it for tonight. Well, no, not for tonight. I'm hoping to come back with another video. I do have some people to thank, but I have to do it quickly because I've been drinking so much water that, yeah, it's one of those problems. Need a nature break real soon. Okay. So these are the people that donated via coffee, and thank you so much, guys, because I know that so many people are experiencing, hardships right now. So I really appreciate it. Diane Haney, Marion Breen, Anon, and I got your note, Anon, you know who you are, and Dr. Rachel S. and Old Coach. They all donated via coffee, and I so much appreciate it. I really do. Also, Latanya Harris donated via PayPal. Thank you, Latanya. and snail mail. Yes, I got snail mail. Yay! I don't know, I find it fun. But James F. in Ohio, he sent a lovely note and coffee. He didn't want me to be short of coffee during the self-quarantining. So he sent some delicious, like chocolate cherry coffee. It's like amazing. So thank you so much, James. I really appreciate that. And Kristen from Toronto, and I always am delighted when I hear from Canadians. I just think, you know, these subjects, and because I'm dealing mostly with the States, you know, I wouldn't think would appeal to Canadians, but it's surprising to me sometimes how many Canadian viewers I really have. So Kristen from Toronto, the most thoughtful, this is so thoughtful, sent me she sent me a $50 gift certificate to Freshco, which is a grocery store here in Canada, and I have one just down the road. So very, very practical gift, and thank you. I really appreciate that. Very, very nice of you. And so anyway, you guys have a great night, and I see that I have been able to talk through my coughing, so I think I'm going to take a nature break and come right back and do another video for you guys, because you deserve it. You do. So I'll be back. You guys have a great night, and keep seeking truth.